Up next on Carib Nation, we'll be talking with Omar Stevenson, who is staging the inaugural DC Reggae Festival in Washington on August 19th. For all the details concerning this festival, stay tuned, coming right up. Welcome to Carib Nation. I'm Curtis Ward, and sitting across from me today is Omar Stevenson, the founder and organizer of the first World Reggae Festival in Washington, D.C. Welcome to Carib Nation TV.
Pleasure to join you today, sir. It's my pleasure.
It's great to know that you are bringing a bit of Jamaican and Caribbean culture to the nation's capital. Tell us a little bit about exactly what it is you're doing.
Well, this year we are hosting the first annual DC World Reggae Festival. And reggae music is our music, Jamaican music, and we wanted to bring that on a big scale to the United States in the nation's capital. So this year we're having it at the RFK Stadium, and the lineup features Toots the Maytals, pretty much can be credited with the founding of reggae music. Shabba Ranks, who can pretty much be given the title as the king of dancehall. And of course we have a new generation of reggae music coming out, just somewhat of the reggae revival. We have Chronixx also on the lineup. So what we wanted to do was to capture the music from then and now. So if you notice, the lineup pretty much goes back 40 years to now. And we wanted to showcase that in Washington, D.C. as a way of putting our culture, our music, our food on display.
And when exactly is this?
It's going to be held Sunday, August 19th at RFK.
And it seems like you're bringing a real set of superstars here, people that we have grown up with in the reggae music genre.
Yes, they are. In their own rights, they are superstars. You know, Shabba did his thing back in the 90s, and a lot of people still live in that era, like myself. I just love the 90s. I'm a 90s kid.
I was a little bit before that.
Oh, I understand. Okay, understandably so. You know, Toots the Maytals, honestly, I have an appreciation for his music as well. I really do love his music. And Chronixx, who is now one of the new sensation. And of course, the lineup also features artists from Trinidad, which is Kes the Band. We also have Rupee from Barbados. And of course, we have two local acts, Jaworks from Baltimore and Raslick, he's from the Washington area.
So Omar, what got you into doing festivals? I mean, this is the first reggae festival we're going to have in DC. What got you into this whole idea of bringing a reggae festival to Washington, D.C.?
You know, music has always been as part of my life. You know, early in my life, I realized that doing what I love will not only bring me, you know, monetary gains, but it will also bring me happiness. So since high school, I played in a high school band. I played in more than one band, actually. I was a trumpeter in the high school orchestra band, and I also was a bass player in a community band. So music has always been part of me, and I've always tried to have music where, you know, be part of what I do in my daily routine. So 4 years ago, since moving to Washington several years ago, we decided that we were going to start a Caribbean live music concert series, and we started that at the Howard Theater. So we, and every summer we do about 10 to 15 shows throughout the summer, starting about May, leading into early September, and that went well. But the idea behind that was to have that culminate into a festival at the end of the summer. Obviously, it took us a while to gain momentum, and we had to, you know, somehow brand ourselves as really good concert promoters and establish ourselves so we can have a following and people understand the quality of what we do. This year I felt like it was the right time to do that. So we started working on it maybe a year ago, looking at buying the right talents that would be able to put on showcase, because we wanted to capture, as I said, 40 years back, and we wanted the right elements. So when you look at the show, you see Shabba Ranks that represent a certain era. You see Toots the Maytals represent a certain era, and Chronixx represents a certain era. So that's the message. That's the definition of what the show is about. And that's how I got into festival. I think it'll be a good way to showcase our culture.
Yeah, you mentioned that music has always been a part of your life, going back to high school.
Yes.
But that's not your real profession, is it?
No, it's not. Music makes me happy. So like most Jamaicans, we have many jobs. And we do multiple things, you know. We have our hands in a lot of different things. I am a civil engineer by trade. I went to Howard University. I did a bachelor's and a master's in engineering, and I focus on civil engineering.
But music has been in your blood, and as a Jamaican musician of the high school era, yes. Which high school was that?
Happy Grove. Proud Happy Grovian, wherever I go. You know, it's located in East Portland, just outside of St. Thomas, on the border between Portland and St. Thomas. Tucked away. It was founded by the Quakers, so it's one of the few Quaker schools in Jamaica. They had at the time a very good high school band. Before my time, the band was a very, very good band, and then it died down for a little bit. And while I was there, they revived the band and invested a lot into getting instruments and stuff for the students.
And they've produced Omar Stevenson, producer of the inaugural Reggae Festival in Washington, D.C.
Yes, they have.
Now, I find it quite intriguing that you have taken up music to fill most of your time outside of the career that you had earmarked for yourself.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're bringing us, as Jamaicans and Caribbean people in the diaspora,
right,
the pleasures that we are deprived of,
yes,
by not living in the region. So you mentioned earlier that you have been, for the past couple of years, I think you said?
Yes, for the past 4 years, we began the Caribbean Live, quote-unquote, concert series. We've been promoting shows before then, you know, and I've remained somewhat a part of the music industry because, again, as a part of my hobby, we don't make a lot of money doing it, but we enjoy doing it. I served as an artist manager for a couple of years. I operated an agency where we facilitated bookings for artists. We also facilitated an agency where we were able to file for work permits for a number of Jamaicans as well as Caribbean bands that tours the United States. To date, we still have artists that tours the United States that works under our work permit.
Okay. Tell me, people are going to be asking, okay, you have this solid background in music. Have you done a festival of this kind or anything close to this before?
Yes, I have. I have partnered with a number of good friends who actually will be traveling here for this festival too. I've done a couple of festivals in Tortola, British Virgin Islands, with a good friend of mine, Kenny Thompson. He's KT Productions, and we co-produce a number of festivals there for the last 8 to 10 years. I've done similar shows in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands with a good friend of mine from Westline Productions. And, you know, I've traveled throughout North America and assist a number of promoters behind the scene in putting on shows, including, you know, some at Six Flags, New Jersey, and Brooklyn, New York, and Toronto, Canada. So
you're very much experienced. So
yeah,
people who are planning to come to the DC Reggae Festival,
yes,
can be assured that they're going to get a good product, well organized, right? Because, you know, from time to time we have these little things going on and people leave dissatisfied because the artists don't arrive on time and stuff. You have this under control, I take it.
Yes, sir. You know, we wanted to do this right, and coming out under a good portfolio was important for us, and we basically challenged ourselves to produce a well-produced festival to the point where we actually publish the running order for the show on our website. We publish the time when each artist will be going on the stage, and I'm holding my production crew accountable to that time. So we're going to start on time, we're going to have a set band change time, bands are going to get set up, and they're going to perform for a set time, and we're going to end on time.
Have you promoted outside of the Americas, like in Europe or anything like that?
No, I've not promoted a show in Europe, but I've toured with a band in Europe. I actually served for probably 2 years as road manager for Machel Montano. This is one of Trinidad's top artists. I was his road manager for about 2 years, and we toured a number of places, Caribbean, Europe, all over. So I'm used to seeing production, being a part of production. And I wasn't only his road manager, I doubled also as his production person.
You know, Carib Nation is seen globally.
Yes, sir.
So when they hear us talk about the Washington, D.C. Reggae Festival,
sure,
they are going to be listening out and looking out for the outcome.
Yes.
As to whether they should say, Omar, come to London, come to Birmingham, come to Toronto, come here, come there, to do a festival for us.
Right.
Would you be open to those kinds of invitations?
I'll be hoping, but I'm wondering how I could get to clone myself to being in multiple places at the same time. A festival of this nature, at this level that we're trying to do it, takes a lot of work, and not having a trained team here that has done festival before, I've had to spend a lot of time hands-on, working through logistics, working through, you know, teaching each person how to do each aspects of the, because it's multiple moving parts. You know, there's lights, there's sound, there's stage, there's a lot of production advancement that goes beyond. Even from buying talent, we have to be talking to the artist production managers about how we plan on doing this. How big is the stage? How are we going to be able to facilitate band changes in the time frame we wanted to? What's the setup? What's the breakdown time? You know, things like that. So not a lot of people on my team had that experience, and I've had to kind of train them at the same time. And there's a certain level of expectation that comes with when you're booking international artists. The hospitality have to be on point. They expect you to have a certain level of production, and I've had to train people to meet that expectation of the artists. And not only that, when we promote a show of this nature and we're selling tickets at a certain rate, our patrons expect us to deliver on a certain quality, and that's probably one of the hardest part, because we have to be ready. Lights, camera, action, ready on day one. This is not no dress rehearsal. We only have one shot to get it right. So it's difficult to replicate this in multiple places unless we have a trained team that I can travel with on the road. But I'll be open.
You mentioned these well-known artists, Toots
Yes.
and the Maytals.
Yes.
I grew up with Toots and the Maytals way back when. And the famous 5446, What's My Number?
That's right.
And so on and so forth. And he has tested the time of history and is still going very strong.
Very strong.
Shabba Ranks, yes, I'm familiar with him.
Yes.
Chronixx, I keep hearing about Chronixx. I'm not going to claim to know a whole lot about him, but I hear he's very good and is one of the great artists, Jamaican artists of
Yes.
today. But you mentioned some young people, some new acts, and I think it is only fair that you talk a little bit about those new acts, because everyone knows Toots and the Maytals, Shabba Ranks and Chronixx.
Right.
Not many people might have heard of some of these new acts.
Right. So we have 2 local bands because we felt like it was necessary as well to have a local element. You know, it's okay and fine to bring in international acts and do these great shows, but you also got to support your local talent, your local base. And to be frank, the local artists really help us a lot with grassroots marketing, because they're excited about being part of the lineup and this great thing that we're doing, and they want to be part of this great thing. And so they go out and they pretty much everywhere they perform, leading up to the show, they're telling their audience, listen, I'm going to be on this big stage. Come out, come and see me. It's going to be a special show that day. And they rehearse for it. They change their set, and they want to do something special. So we have Raslik, who is a local artist, Jamaican. and he's doing extremely well. He has a couple singles that he released recently, and I've heard a couple of them, and they're really good. And I think he's going to really surprise the audience with his performance. I won't talk much about it, but I really know some of the stuff that he's incorporating in his set. And of course, there's Jaworks from Baltimore. It's a well-established local band, have a huge following. And I particularly reach out to them because they have an audience that we don't have as part of our base. They have a Caucasian audience, and they travel to different places and appeal to a certain type of crowd that we wouldn't have access to that easily. So every artist on the show brings something to the table. Nobody's riding on the other one. It's pretty much they own a certain audience, and they're bringing that to the show.
Yeah, a few years ago I went to a reggae show at the Kennedy Center, and what was quite amazing is the wide spectrum of artists spanning different countries, different ethnicities, and so on, who are steeped in reggae music.
Yeah.
But what is most amazing is the audience. When you have a show of this nature, you're going to find a large part of your audience are not just Jamaicans and other people of the Caribbean, but Americans who love reggae music.
Yes.
And they will have heard about many of these artists that you are bringing.
Right.
But in addition to the reggae artists, you mentioned some other Caribbean artists, and I think this is a good time for you to tell us a little bit about them.
Awesome. You know, Kes the band is a band from Trinidad, but he also sings a few reggae songs. And it's funny because reggae, in my opinion, is a dominant music across the Caribbean. Every island you go plays reggae. And then during carnival season, some of the other islands will play soca music, and soca music become dominant for a season or a period of time. But then outside of carnival, reggae dominates. And most of these soca bands, they appreciate the reggae. So they will infuse reggae into their soca music. And Kes is one such band. He appeals across the board to not only Trinidadians who will appreciate and have a greater appreciation for soca music, but reggae music. Kes has embraced that. And he's such a vibrant performer, and he has a really big hit this year that most people are really loving it. I won't tell you, but you come to the show and you'll hear it, and then I said, that's the song, Curtis. But Kes has been traveling to Jamaica for almost maybe 15 to 20 years now, and he has participated in all of the Jamaica carnivals. Jamaicans love Kes the band. It's an extremely, really good group. So I do believe that they will be appreciated and received.
So you'll have a little bit for everybody.
Yes. And then there's
heavy concentration on reggae, of course.
Heavy concentration
on,
yeah, with all due respect, but we also pay tribute to all the other music that has reggae infused in it.
I just want to remind our audience that we are here talking about the inaugural Washington, D.C. Reggae Festival.
Correct.
And we're talking to the producer, director, the person who is making this possible, Omar Stevenson.
Yes.
Tell us again, Omar. You said it is Sunday the 19th.
Sunday, August 19th at RFK Stadium.
RFK Stadium. What time do you start?
We start at 12 noon and we go up until 11 p.m.
Wow.
It's a long day.
That's 11 hours of music.
Music.
Island music, reggae music.
Yes.
Courtesy of, and the name of your production company?
Top Tier Management is the management company that we have that manages most of the artists and some of the endorsement work that we do behind the scenes. And Pump Station Entertainment is the production company that does most of the producing of the concerts. So two companies come together to produce the show.
Okay, I believe you mentioned another artist from elsewhere in the Caribbean.
We have Rupee from Barbados.
From Barbados.
And I must disclose in a effort of full disclosure that I currently manage Rupee.
Oh, you do, huh?
Yeah, I'm Rupee's manager. And Rupee has had success in soca music for many years. He is one of the few soca artists who has had a Billboard hit. He was signed to Atlantic Records several years ago and made famous by Tempted to Touch, which is one of his big songs.
So people who are familiar with soca music knows of Rupee.
Yes, he is one of the few soca artists who has crossed over into mainstream.
So your festival will attract everybody from the Caribbean. One, because reggae music is all over the Caribbean.
Correct.
And lots of radio stations everywhere in the Caribbean. But you also have soca music for the soca lovers.
Yes.
And you have Trinidadian musician, you have Barbadian musician, you
Yes.
have Jamaican musicians.
Yes.
You have local musicians.
Right.
This seems like it's going to be quite a package that you're putting on the 19th of August.
Yeah, we consider it like a melting pot for Caribbean people. Though the emphasis is placed on reggae, we did not just throw the word world in there for no reason. When we say DC World Reggae Festival, we also thinking of the impact that reggae music have had on the world, and how world music infused reggae music has influenced world music. So in future staging of the show, we reserve the right then, because of our title and the umbrella under which we came out, to include compa music,
right,
and music of other Caribbean islands such as Haiti.
Yes.
And so.
And the timing of this is also in the independence period.
Yes.
Jamaica just celebrated its 56th independence. Trinidad independence is coming up.
Yes.
At the end of this month, and so you're fitting it right in there as we continue to celebrate emancipation and independence and the reach of our music, or global reach.
Right.
And you quite rightly named it the DC World Festival.
Yes.
And do you plan to do this on an annual basis?
Certainly. We are doing this next year on August 18th. The date is already set, and we also already began negotiations with some of the talents that we're looking at for next year.
Omar, it's a pleasure having you here, and I must say that we're all looking forward to this festival, and I do hope you get a very good turnout. Thank you for being on Carib Nation TV.
Thank you for having me, and
thank
you for offering your best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Carib Nation today. Until next time.